welcome Cynthia. Cynthia Ngomane is the manager for strategy, senior manager for strategy from a distribution perspective. And she's going to give us a very brief 10-minute input on how Eskom views the just energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leila. Can you please confirm if you can hear me and if you can see the presentation?
I can hear you and it is in presentation mode, so you may go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity as Eskom Distribution to present our view then in terms of the just energy transition. There's a lot of work that we are doing as a division to transition as well with all the other entities that are busy with this initiative. So as Eskom, we take this initiative very seriously because, I mean, we are one of the highest emitters of carbon emissions. So we are putting actually a number of initiatives in place to ensure that we transition towards renewable technologies. So at Eskom, we established the JET office in 2020. And since then, we've made huge strides with regards to progressing towards a cleaner and greener energy future. So our JET vision then is to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 with an increase in sustainable jobs. And then the keyword there is sustainable. And that obviously there are benefits that come from this transition, which are a good impact on the air quality, water usage, and then the potential to create new exciting jobs and a greater preservation of biodiversity in South Africa. So by transitioning, we are saying that we are moving towards lower carbon technologies. And then the just aspect means while we are decommissioning fossil plants in certain areas, we don't want to adversely impact the societies in those areas. We don't want to impact jobs. We don't want to impact livelihoods in a negative way. We want to create jobs. We want to better the economies in those areas. So although the just energy transition is important for the country, it's especially important for us as Eskom Distribution because it will determine our future growth and sustainability. So from an Eskom point of view, our strategy, Eskom Distribution point of view, our strategy is influenced by 4 Ds: decentralization, democratization, digital transformation, and decarbonization. And these 4 Ds all align the just energy transition. If you look at decentralization, we are talking about customers that are able to self-generate, so there's less reliance on Eskom. So what are we doing as Eskom Distribution? We are also moving into that space where we are deploying decentralized technologies such as microgrids and PVs, for example, so that we remain competitive in the business going forward. And then democratization, the customer now has choice. We have customers that are looking to utilize only green power. So we are currently running a pilot where we are offering green credits to those customers that are interested because of their need to actually be friendlier to the environment. So that process is also ongoing. And then digital transformation, we are enabling things like smart grid so that we can enable smart networks so that we can, identify areas where maybe there's areas for improvement in terms of network maintenance. Also where there's areas where there might be illegal connections, for example. So smart grid going forward will be very important. And that's just one component looking at digital transformation. And then decarbonization, very important. As distribution, we are upgrading and refurbishing our grid to take on the additional renewable power that's going to come on board. We know that the president announced that going forward, the limit of 100 megawatts has been removed. So we anticipate more generators coming on board, requesting to utilize our grid for wheeling purposes. So we are actually moving very fast as distribution to ensure that the grid is ready to take on the additional renewable power that's going to come, especially from the private sector. And then also we know that the transport sector contributes significantly, about 11% of the South African carbon footprint. So it contributes to the South African carbon footprint by 11%. So going forward, as Eskom distribution, we are moving toward electric vehicles so that we can reduce our carbon footprint as a business. So we are aiming to transition from ICE EVs to EVs by 2040. So if everything goes according to plan, that is what we are aiming to achieve with regards to moving towards EVs. And then alongside the deployment of EVs, we are planning to deploy charging stations to increase our sales. And then the charging stations that we will be deploying, some of them will be linked to renewable technologies. Like, for example, we'll deploy a charging station linked to a microgrid so that the power that supplies the charging station is coming from the microgrid. So that's another step towards enabling renewable technology deployment. So I'm sure you can see that from a distribution point of view, we are actually doing a lot of work to transition towards renewables. And then as Eskom Holdings as a whole, we are pushing towards 4 strategic objectives. We are pursuing financial and operational sustainability. We are facilitating a competitive future energy industry. We are modernizing our power system, and then we're striving for net zero emissions by 2050. These objectives are aligned to our shareholder in terms of what they requested from us, and then they're also aligned to the industry trends that I just spoke about. So from a transition point of view, the just energy transition point of view, we are repurposing and repowering coal power stations. But where we are decommissioning fossil plant, we are enabling deployment of renewable technologies by IPPs, by ourselves, to ensure that we deal with the issue of capacity in the country. And then what's very important for us as Eskom distribution as well is the fact that we need to promote local industrialization and job creation. I mean, we'll be deploying these technologies, you know, your microgrids, your PVs, but this process will be expedited if these components can be produced locally so that we can, you know, quickly then deploy these technologies in areas where they are requested instead of having to wait for components to come from overseas, for example. So we will be focusing on localization as a business. So we all know that the JET plan is not dependent on one entity. So Eskom alone, we can't effectively deploy or transition, you know, towards this new energy space. All the stakeholders, you know, need to come to the table to ensure that things get done. So we are looking at a policy. The necessary policy adjustments need to be made to ensure that we are able to move into the renewable energy space. Industrialization, very important, and I did speak to it. As distribution, we are strengthening our grid. I did mention that as well, because that is our asset, very valuable, and it's a key enabler to ensuring the transition towards a renewable energy space going forward. And then internally, as an Eskom distribution business, we are reskilling ourselves as well, to be able to maintain these new technologies. So you see, looking at this diagram, that there's a lot of things that are happening actually with regards to us transitioning as a business. So the distribution business of the future will consist of 3 functions: network operator, retail services, system operator, and energy trader. The 2 services have been in existence for a while, network operator and retail services, but system operator and energy trader is very new. It's going to enable energy aggregation, demand and supply flexibility, and other capabilities. But then what's important is that we require policy to allow us to play in the space as a system operator, and also regulation as well in terms of the licensing that's required from a distribution point of view to allow us to do so. This slide just talks to the fact that we are upgrading our infrastructure, and we are willing to get into public-private partnerships with entities to ensure that the grid is refurbished. So this is my second last slide. So these are the services then that we are offering as Eskom distribution going forward. We are deploying microgrids. This is already happening. We've already deployed a few microgrids. There's also the land lease project that's ongoing, where we are enabling IPPs to utilize our land to generate capacity using their renewable technologies. And then this is assisting with solving the capacity issue in the country. And then there's grid access for renewable generation. There's a lot of requests actually coming, especially from the private sector for our wheeling service. So it's going to be very imperative that we refurbish our network going forward so that we can take on the additional generation that's coming up. So we need to unlock the grid constraints, and then we need to encourage renewable energy investments in areas where there is a generation connection capacity, very important. And then I did talk to e-mobility, the fact that we are moving towards EVs as a business, and we are going to assist in initiatives in the country actually to stimulate the sale of electric vehicles, because it's going to enable our financial sustainability as the distribution business as we deploy charging stations on our own and also in partnerships with entities that are already in this space. And then I spoke to the DSO. It's imperative to enable the just transition, the IRP determination, and then it's going to incentivize customers, prosumers, and distributed energy resources to participate in the energy market. For example, we'll be providing energy aggregation services, which are going to be key going forward. And then DSM are very important because we need to be able to send signals to our customers to say the system is under constraint, so please reduce your usage. And then obviously customers will then get compensated for doing so. So what these services will be enabling from an Eskom point of view, will be enabling sustainable job creation, resource reskilling, especially internally for us as Eskom, and then we'll be enabling industrialization and localization. And then one last point, the electrification of communities is being enabled by these renewable technologies as well. For example, there are areas where our grid currently does not reach, but we are going out to those areas. We are deploying microgrids, and that's enabling electrification. So in conclusion then, Eskom distribution, we are aligned to the just energy transition. We support the IRP 2019 and South Africa's aspirations for a greener future. And then we are committed to facilitating connection of renewable energies through grid planning and generation connection assessment. But we require assistance then from a policy point of view, where we need the Electricity Regulation Act to be amended to allow us to participate as a TSO, enabling energy trading, aggregation function, and the establishment of a market to enable trading and the establishment of DERs. So thank you so much, Chairperson. I think I will just end there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. You managed to put in such a lot of information in such a short time. I do appreciate that at the last minute you agreed to join us today. Your last slide, or second last slide, on the 6 distribution service offerings and opportunities was especially interesting and useful. And I think, again, you'll get quite a few questions there.